This week, I decided to take on my toughest, most agonizing challenge yet. I am completing Pokemon Fire Red using one Pokemon only. This Pokemon is none other than Magikarp. Magikarp is famously the worst Pokemon in the game. This Pokemon has horrible base stats, but what truly makes this challenging is that Magikarp only has access to 3 moves, including the most useless move in the game, Splash. This challenge will truly be a test of patience, strategy, and determination to win it all. I start my Fire Red journey like any other. However, rather than receiving a Bulbasaur, Squirtle, or Charmander, I receive a Magikarp from Professor Oak. This Magikarp only has one move, Splash, and this move is quite literally the worst in the game. It does no damage at all, it doesn't change any stats or inflict any status, and the move has 40 PP. Naturally, I immediately lose my first battle to my rival's Charmander. At this point, you may be thinking to yourself, how in the world am I going to progress if I can't do any damage? The answer is painful. Pokemon has a game mechanic where if you entirely run out of PP, a Pokemon will use the move Struggle. Struggle is a 50 base power move that deals recoil equal to a quarter of the damage dealt to the opponent. Not only can we exploit this to deal damage, but Struggle is also a move with no type associated with it. This means that the move is never super effective or resisted. But more importantly, now we have a move that is capable of hitting Ghost type Pokemon. This gives me hope that the run is now possible. The first thing I need to do to use Struggle is burn all of my Splash PP. At first, I am the one struggling, as I begin to take too much damage. Unfortunately, I can't visit the Pokemon Center while burning Splash PP because healing with Nurse Joy will restore Splash back up to 40 PP. It seemed hopeless, but then I had an idea. In Viridian Forest, I have a 10% chance to encounter either a Metapod or a Kakuna. These Pokemon also only know one non-damaging move in Harden. The plan is simple, to burn Splash PP while these specific Pokemon can't hurt Magikarp. And the plan works flawlessly. Unfortunately, I did have to encounter more than one Metapod or Kakuna, because Splash actually has more PP than Harden. If I stayed in too long, my opponent would start using the move Struggle before I was finished burning PP. This was a long and difficult process, but eventually I was able to use the Struggle move, gain a few levels against wild Pokemon, and win my first trainer battle. Eventually, I struggle my way all the way out of Viridian Forest, fighting all the trainers along the way, and I make it to Pewter City for my first gym challenge. Brock was very difficult, but thankfully I had the foresight to save most of my potions for this battle. Although I leveled up enough to learn a new move in Tackle, I decided that using Struggle is a better plan since Brock's rock types resist normal moves. I struggle my way through the Geodude, and then I heal up for the Onix. The battle seemed like it took an eternity, but eventually I am able to whittle down both of Brock's rock-type Pokemon and earn my first gym badge. At this point, I am in pure disbelief and become more optimistic that I can push through and do this with some extreme determination. After Brock, I have a relatively easy time getting through Mount Moon. Now that I have the move Tackle, I don't have to worry about burning my Splash moves to progress. I then reach Cerulean City, and I have 2 options. I can either fight my rival and cross Nugget Bridge, or face the second gym battle against Misty. I fail pretty spectacularly at both, and decide that I need to grind some more levels before these challenges. I decide to raise Magikarp to level 30, because I will then learn the move Flail. This move is probably the biggest reason that this challenge is even possible. Flail is a move that has higher power when the user's HP is lower. The base power of Flail ranges from 20 to 200 depending on Magikarp's health. Throughout the game, I will manage Magikarp's HP the best I can to utilize Flail to its fullest potential. With Magikarp's new move, I take on the Nugget Bridge rival battle, and it was a little tricky, but using potions and flails, I am able to win. I gain a couple of levels on Nugget Bridge, and grab the SSN ticket before challenging Misty. Misty is super tough because her Pokemon can use the move Recover. Fortunately, I can take out the Staryu with a max power flail from my pre-damaged Magikarp. However, this isn't strong enough to take out the Starmie, and I am in range of being KO'd. With a series of potions, tackles, flails, and a lot of luck, I am able to survive a hit on 1 HP and take out the Starmie with a max power flail, earning my second badge. I absolutely breeze through the SSN and get the cut HM. For the duration of the run, I have to catch a new Pokemon every now and then to use HMs. Unfortunately, there is no way around this, but I do refrain from ever using these HM Pokemon in battle and strictly only use my Magikarp. I decide to skip the third gym for now and move on to the next big hurdle of the game, Rock Tunnel, and I have a very difficult time getting through. This is because Rock Tunnel is full of unskippable battles against trainers with many Rock-type Pokemon. Magikarp has a very hard time dealing damage to these Pokemon, but eventually, after many failed attempts, Magikarp manages to persevere and make it through. At this point, I can now access Celadon City, Saffron City, and Lavender Town. Most importantly of all, I can now get to the Celadon City department store. This is really great because this gives me the ability to purchase the X battle items, which can be used in battle to increase Magikarp's terrible stats. What Magikarp lacks in base stats, we can make up for by feeding it a ton of drugs. And that is exactly what I do to take on Rocket Boss Giovanni. At the start of this battle, I quickly feed Magikarp as many X attacks and X defends as I can so that it can deal significant enough damage to Giovanni's rock types. I also use a guard spec or two so that Rhyhorn can't drop my stats, and eventually I take out the Onix and the Rhyhorn. At this point, I can easily take out the Kangaskhan with a couple of flails and win the battle. This strategy proves to be invaluable for the rest of the run. I now decide that it's probably a good idea to go back and take on Surge before I attempt to fight Erica. I easily take out his first couple of Pokemon with max power flails. Unfortunately, Surge's Raichu has a priority move in Quick Attack, so I need to heal up with some potions. A Shockwave does a ton of damage to me, but luckily it puts me at just the right health range to take out the Raichu with Flail, and I earn my third gym badge. Feeling good about my third badge, I immediately decide to challenge Erica for my fourth. This battle was a little harder and I needed a new strategy. I noticed the lead Victory Bell always seems to go for Stun Spore, so I gave Magikarp the Cherry Berry to cure paralysis. This free turn allowed me to set up an X attack. I actually got lucky and the Stun Spore misses. Luckily, I pre-damaged Magikarp just enough to survive a Giga Drain on 1 HP. And I take out the Victory Bell and the Tangela with a max power flail. The Vileplume can unfortunately survive this attack, so I stall out Giga Drain PP using potions. Once this is done, I can easily finish up the battle, granting me badge number 4. After this, I move on to Pokemon Tower to once again fight my rival. I use a guard spec on Magikarp to prevent Pidgeotto from lowering my accuracy with Sand Attack. And I have a pretty easy time from here since Magikarp is so overleveled. It was actually quite comical to see my Magikarp take on a fully evolved Gyarados and win. From this point, I begin the long process of burning all of the PP for Tackle, Flail, and Splash. Eventually, I regain the ability to use the typeless Struggle move, and I am able to easily clear the Ghost-type trainers and Pokemon Tower, earning me the Poke Flute. Now it's time I fight my rival once again in Silphco, and I have a pretty easy time by using X items. I max Magikarp's attack, and fortunately I survive a bite from Gyarados at just 2 HP. From here, I simply flail my way to victory. Giovanni is a bit harder this time around, and I decide to use a Dire Hit in hopes to land some crits. I heal up Magikarp in fear of dying to Kangaskhan's Fake Out, and I am eventually able to whittle down Giovanni's team and earn the Silph Scope. With the Poke Flute in hand, I gain access to Cycling Road and make my way down to Fuchsia City. Koga is the gym leader here, and this gym gave me a lot of trouble. Koga's Pokemon use Toxic Stall and Evasion to win, making it very hard to set up my Magikarp. I ultimately decide to set up on the Coughing because I can stop accuracy drops from Smokescreen using guard specs, but I can't stop Muck from using Minimize. I stocked up on antidotes to cure Magikarp of any poisoning. After setting up, I hit a point where Magikarp is in range to hit a 100 base power flail. With a lot of luck, I managed to land all of my flails and survive a sludge thanks to my X Defend to win the battle and earn another badge. Next was Sabrina, and I actually had a pretty easy time with her gym. I was able to pre-damage Magikarp to the perfect range to use an X attack and survive a hit on low health. From there, I was able to sweep the remainder of the gym with max power flails, as Sabrina's psychic types do not have the greatest physical defense. I now have 6 badges using only Magikarp, and I teach Surf to the Gift Lapras to make my way to Cinnabar Island. Once I get to Cinnabar, I have no trouble at all getting the secret key from the Cinnabar Mansion. This key allows me to enter the 7th gym and challenge Blaine. You may think this gym was easy, but it was actually pretty tough. There is no X special defense item, and Blaine's Pokemon are mostly very strong special attackers. Magikarp's base special defense stat is also literal poop at just 20. Blaine also has 2 Pokemon with the Intimidate ability, which will lower Magikarp's attack by 1 stage. We were able to feed our little fish an ungodly amount of drugs to get through this one. At the start of the battle, I quickly give Magikarp as many pills as it could possibly consume, and some nice cold lemonade. Once Magikarp's attack and defense stat were maxed out, I gave it a guard spec to block Intimidate, and it was time to sweep. Magikarp starts flailing and takes out the whole team, granting me badge number 7 and possibly years of rehab for my little fish. The Sevi Island intermission between gyms 7 and 8 was quite easy aside from the back-to-back biker battles on 3 Island. This took a few tries, but Magikarp made it through. I rescue the little girl in the berry forest and actually encounter a shiny Hypno. It was cool to see a full odd shiny, but it broke my heart that I found it in a run like this one where I am only using 1 Pokemon. Magikarp defeats the pink Hypno and I move on to the final gym challenge. The strategy for this Giovanni fight is the same as the previous. I use as many X attacks and X defends as my little drug addicted fishy can tolerate, and I attempt a sweep. This time I use a dire hit in hopes I can land some lucky critical hits against the rock Pokemon. Lucky for me, this strategy works, and I am able to avoid getting poisoned by Nidoqueen and Nidoking's Poison Point ability, securing the win and my final gym badge. Although my biggest challenge still lies ahead, I already consider it a pretty impressive feat that I was able to get all 8 badges with just a Magikarp, and I feel good. There is only one rival battle before I can face the Elite Four. I use my X items, including a guard spec, so Pidgeot cannot lower my attack with Feather Dance. This took a couple of tries because my rival's Execute was actually able to knock me out from full health with a Solar Beam. Managing my health and sweeping with Flail appeared to be the key to victory. I got really close, but then I actually wasn't strong enough to take out the Charizard after Gyarados' Intimidate. Similar to Blaine battle, it seemed the only way to win was to block the Intimidate with a guard spec. The plan worked beautifully. My rival was defeated, and now it was time for Victory Road. As it turns out, you can actually get through the entirety of Victory Road without actually battling any trainers. Through the art of sneaking around these trainers and staying out of sight, I was able to cheese my way all the way through Victory Road and finally reached the Indigo Plateau. It's time for the Elite Four. Well, actually, it wasn't quite time for the Elite Four. This is by far going to be the hardest part of the game, and I am super low on items, money, and quite frankly, I am pretty low level to get through with just my Magikarp. I decided to farm some experience and some cash by using the Versus Seeker. This allows me to battle previously fought trainers, and after a long grind, I stock up on resources and I exert most of my tackle PP because Agatha of the Elite Four has Ghost-type Pokemon. After this, I am finally ready to conclude this insane challenge. Up first is Lorelei, and her Pokemon don't really have physical moves, so I decide the best strategy is to only set up X attacks and not worry at all about X defense. Once I hit about 5, Magikarp lives on a sliver of health, and I decide to take this opportunity to KO the Dugong with a Flail. It goes down in 1 hit, and I heal up and set up my last X attack against the Cloyster. I burn my last 3 tackles and decide to waste a turn on a dire hit, in hopes to power up my flail and maybe even land a lucky crit. I take out the Cloyster and out comes Slowbro. I manage to take out the Slowbro, Jinx, and Lapras by managing my health well and using flails, securing my first Elite Four victory. Next up is Bruno, and I decide that using Struggle is the best plan. I get Magikarp all the way to max defense by setting up against Onix. Onix has a very low attack stat, so this is actually quite easy. I then max out Magikarp's attack stat and pop a dire hit for good luck, and I begin to use Struggle. Since Struggle is a typeless move, it does good damage to Onix. I take it out and Bruno sends out his Hitmonchan. I am actually worried about this Hitmonchan because it has the move Counter. If I don't take it out and it uses Counter against my Magikarp, it will definitely faint. Fortunately, I land a lucky crit and take out the Hitmonchan in one shot. After that, Magikarp uses Struggle to defeat the remainder of Bruno's team without much trouble at all. Agatha is next, and I need to rely entirely on Struggle for this battle because of her ghost Pokemon. I want to set up X attacks immediately into the Gengar before it has the chance to use too many double teams and evade all my attacks. I get lucky and I am able to two-shot the Gengar after just a few X attacks. Now that I no longer have to worry about evasion, I easily take out the Golbat, Arbok, the second Gengar, and Agatha's Haunter. The Haunter, funny enough, actually took itself out with its own curse attack. Now it's time to move on to Lance. Lance by far is the hardest of the Elite Four and can threaten a KO with a single Outrage from Dragonite. Since Dragonite can take me out with one hit, the only option is to set up into the lead Gyarados and get Magikarp's HP in range of a maximum power flail to take it out first. This took a ton of healing and luck, especially because I can't do anything to reduce the power of Gyarados' special moves, which makes it really hard to manage HP. After understanding that a bite will do roughly 45 to 49 damage, I was able to survive a hit with just 3 HP and begin my sweep. Flail was able to one-shot Lance's Gyarados, both Dragonair, and finally, the Dragonite. Last up was Aerodactyl, and I was not confident that Magikarp could one-shot it, so I healed back to full health. Then, with some patience, a lot of tackles, and a few flails, I was able to get the win. Now, all that stands in my way to complete this crazy challenge is the champion battle. The strategy for this battle is very similar to the previous battle against Lance. The difference is that this time I will need to use the Guard Specs item. Pidgeot has Feather Dance as well as Sand Attack and can really ruin the battle for Magikarp if it is allowed to lower its stats. I set up as many Guard Specs as I can while maxing out Magikarp's defense and attack for the remainder of the battle. I purposely let Pidgeot get Magikarp very close to death and even burn a few turns using Ethers to maximize the power of Flail. I survive an Aerial Ace with 4 HP and begin cutting down the champion team. Magikarp quickly takes out the Pidgeot in a single hit, then does the same to Exeggutor. This is really nice because Exeggutor threatens a one-hit KO with Giga Drain. Magikarp then takes out the Alakazam with a single hit as well. Things are looking good, and the champion sends out Rhydon. I am forced to heal here since Magikarp can't take this out with one flail. I use the last of my Guard Specs throughout the duration of the Rhydon battle because it can greatly lower Magikarp's speed with a Scary Face. Plus, Gyarados comes out next, and Guard Specs will block the Intimidate. We will need to be at maximum attack if we want to stand any chance against a Charizard. The Rhydon is eventually taken out by a series of dire hit boosted tackles and flails, and the Gyarados comes out just in time for our final Guard Spec to protect Magikarp from the Intimidate. Things look good, but Gyarados is very threatening with Hydro Pump. I decide to PP stall Hydro Pump by healing Magikarp with Hyper Potions. Once Gyarados ran out of Hydro Pumps, I took it out, and the champion's Charizard was all that remained. I heal to full, and this Charizard does devastating damage with a Fire Blast and manages to get a burn. I use the last of my full restores. I know that if Charizard gets another burn, the battle is lost. I barely eat another Fire Blast with just 22 HP remaining. This range is not even close to the maximum power of Flail. This puts the move at just 100 of the max 200 base power. So now, I know I have two options. I can either try to PP stall Fire Blast and pray that I don't get burnt or crit, or I could risk it all with one more flail. I do have a dire hit active, so I decide to go big. Magikarp uses one more flail, and it crits the Charizard to win the challenge. Through all the pain and grinding, the Magikarp that cost me such a headache pulled through when it mattered the absolute most. And that is how I completed Pokemon Fire Red with only a Magikarp. If you made it all the way to this point in the video, thank you very much for watching. This was a really painful grind, but honestly it feels really cool to say that I've beaten Fire Red with only a Magikarp. If you feel crazy enough to try this for yourself, I'd almost encourage you not to, but at least you can use this video as a bit of a guide. I hope you enjoyed the content, and even more so, I hope you have a fantastic day.